Hey guys, this is James Masnick here. I've compiled a short list of 6 different resources that I think would be very helpful for a lesson that would be introducing a unit on United States presidents in any U.S. history class. Probably, I would assume this would be an upper level high school class. I took this when I was a junior in high school. I think that'd be a very appropriate grade level. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run through these 6 different resources very quickly. Just want to give you an idea of what I've found, and hopefully you'll come up with a way to implement this in class. As you'll see, I've generated a QR code for each one of these. I know that in my high school we rented out iPads on a one-to-one program, and we could download a QR scan app onto those iPads, and teachers could hang up QR codes around the classroom. This could be some like an around the room activity. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and go through these sources. I'm going to start off with number 1. This is the official White House biography page. It has a brief overview of each of the 44 presidents. So if you scroll down here, you can go through every president. I'm just going to start here with George Washington. It has a headshot from the official presidential portrait, and then it goes down. It gives a little bit of information, when they took office, and then just runs through brief biography, any major accomplishments before he took office, any major accomplishments of their term in the Oval Office, when their term ended, things like that. Obviously, this is going to overlook some things. I mean, each one of these men has thousands, hundreds, if not thousands of pages of biographical material written about them. But this is a great way to kind of introduce each one of these men and give a little bit of relevant information. So going along, the second tool I found was this matching game. I thought this was kind of interesting. You can go in like this, and it will give you, over here to the right, it will give you kind of a cartoon version of the presidential portrait, give you a few clues, and you have to figure out which president it was from these 4 that are listed. So I know that this is Ulysses S. Grant, and I like this option. I can click over here to change the difficulty if these questions are kind of ridiculously easy. He's confined to a wheelchair because of polio. FDR. Okay, and I can keep making these questions harder, and it will remove clues as you go. So I'm going to click back to an easier setting. You see there's 2 clues here, 3 here, 4 there. If I keep making the questions more challenging, it removes the clues as I go. So I get all the way up here. Clue: after the North Koreans attacked South Korea, I sent troops, and all I have is that one clue and then the portrait over here to pick from. So that was just an interesting game that I thought could be a useful tool. So disregard all these political attack ads. My goodness. So moving along, there's a third tool here. It's a second game. It's another trivia game. I liked this one because it used kind of more interesting fun facts about these guys. So it'd be something like, who is the only bachelor president? James Buchanan. Go on. Who was the heaviest president? William Taft. So you can see the difference between these 2 games. This one right here, the matching game from FunBrain, deals more with what they actually did while they were in the Oval Office. And this one from applesfortheteacher.com is more just trivia, more fun facts about the presidents. So we're going to move on, and this is where it's going to get a little more information intensive, but I think all this stuff is really interesting. At least I find that really interesting. Maybe that's why I'm building this tool about U.S. presidents in the first place. But this is a really, really interesting tool that I found from a site called uspresidents.insidegov.com. And you're going to see that website pop up a few times. But I think this was probably my favorite tool that I have on here. If you open this link, you can actually go through each of the presidents and compare them to another president. But it goes much more in depth than that. So if I click on Barack Obama, maybe it will pull up his page here in a second. Okay. So if you look over here to the left, it has a ton of different drop-down, like sub-menus you can pick from, and it runs through everything. Key facts: who's his vice president? Who did he beat in the general election? When did he take office? Background information. Wife. Any kids? My goodness. Guess this is the downside of this page. Education, anything. Tons of cool biographical information. Scores on these issues here. And then it also compares how they scored on each issue to other presidents within their party, presidents in the other party. Let's see, key accomplishments in domestic policy, approval ratings over the course of their presidency, major legislation, foreign policy, electoral results, how much money he raised in his campaign, any presidential appointments, Supreme Court, cabinet members. And then this is a funny tool, but I think on the one hand it is a little bit humorous to go through and read these reviews. Man, you can keep your doctorate if you want. But it's a good way to see how presidents truly do polarize opinion. They can't keep everybody happy. There are going to be people that give you 5 stars, and there are going to be people that give you 1 star, no matter what you do. And I think it's very important for students to see that with regards to the presidents. Even Abraham Lincoln is one of the most famous presidents, if not the most famous president in U.S. history, and he divided opinion more than anyone. I think it's very important for students to understand that. So moving on, we have another tool here from the same website, uspresidents.insidegov.com, and this is about as close to a truly objective ranking of modern presidents that I could find. So if we go ahead and open this up, what they did here is they ranked every modern, air quotes, modern U.S. president from worst to first, and they did this by quantifying a number of variables. So right here it lists the variables: approval rating, margin of victory in the popular vote, unemployment, GDP, the changes that occurred in these metrics during this president's term. So if you go through, Jimmy Carter, they ranked as the worst. So we'll just stay here. You can click on these other tabs. It gives you, again, key facts, the approval ratings throughout the presidency, milestones, and then how they scored in these metrics that were deemed important. Unemployment rate, national debt, you can go through here, how balanced was the budget, what they do with immigration legislation, how they do with foreign aid, trade, how many trips did they take when they were in office, what was inflation like while they were there, things like that. But as we know, well, as we should know, any ranking of U.S. presidents can only be so objective. There's always a level of subjectivity within any one of these rankings. You can get on Google really quickly and search U.S. presidents ranked best to worst, or best U.S. president of all time, or even worst U.S. president of all time, and you'll come up with millions of different results. Anything from CNN and C-SPAN, or even like a statistical based analysis like we just looked at, which I think does a better job of being more objective. But then you'll also get onto some crazy blogs. I mean, it's very difficult to cut through a lot of these less reliable sources and figure out, okay, how good was this guy really as a president? So the last tool I have here is it shows how each president's rank, not approval rating, how their ranking has fluctuated over time within a series of ranking systems that were, each one of them was intended to be as objective as possible. So if you open this up, it shows, see, each of the presidents, excluding President Barack Obama, because there haven't been enough big surveys conducted by these big academic or media outlets to truly determine how much his ranking has fluctuated. So if you look through here, I think this is really cool for students to see because it's very easy to, even if a source that we would deem reliable, let's say C-SPAN, we would deem C-SPAN to be a very reliable source. It's a very respected media outlet. It's a very respected political outlet. Even their rankings will clash quite a bit. So I'm going to click through here and try to find someone who's, okay, James Madison. Father of the Constitution, essentially wrote the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. But even here, you can see just how much these presidential rankings fluctuate over time from a poll to poll. So here in 2009, we have a poll conducted by C-SPAN. Again, C-SPAN is a very respected political media source. I wouldn't say that it's unreliable in any way, shape, or form, but in 2009, C-SPAN ranked James Madison, again, the guy who wrote the Constitution, as the 20th best president of all time. 1 year later, in 2010, a ranking that were conducted at Siena University, I believe that this rankings was generated by a large team of largely academics and policy analysts, ranked him as 6th. So between 2009 and 2010, James Madison didn't do anything. Okay, he's been dead for almost 200 years. He could not have possibly done anything in that 12 months. And yet you see his ranking fluctuate from 20th all the way up to 6th, depending on who's conducting the polling, who's being polled, what they value, what metrics are being used. And again, I think this is a very useful tool for students to understand and start to kind of get a grasp on just how much your personal experience, any biases that you may have, either not necessarily all bad, how much that might influence your perception of a certain president. So I hope that you found all of these tools to be useful in some way, shape, or form. By no means do you have to use all of them. If you know anything else that you'd want to add, that would be really cool. But somewhere that you could take this, you could have, I remember when I was in U.S. history, we did something sort of similar. When I was in U.S. history, we didn't have the iPad for one-to-one program yet. That didn't come around until my senior year. So we didn't do anything with QR codes, but we had to do research on a certain president. They were assigned randomly throughout the class. And what we did is we had to hit on key domestic policy achievements, key foreign policy achievements, and then any failings and shortcomings that these guys had, because no president has been perfect. And what we did is we had to create a poster, and it would either go in the Hall of Fame or the Wall of Shame. So the Hall of Fame, obviously, if we thought this president did a fantastic job and he should be given all the plaudits for his accomplishments. And then the Wall of Shame, if we didn't like what this guy did, he was tainted by scandal, something like that. I really liked that. I did James K. Polk. I put him in the Hall of Fame, and he's my favorite president still because of that project. I thought it was a really cool way to get some in-depth knowledge on one guy and then introduce that material to my classmates, and that way everybody else in the class could learn a lot about him as well. So yeah, feel free to use this however you would like. I hope that this is helpful to you. Thank you.